mine. She doesn't look like me at all. I did some research and found out that 30% of men are raising someone else's child, which made me really worried. I finally confronted my wife and calmly informed her that I'm planning to get a paternity test. She started yelling at me hysterically, saying I'm an idiot and this is absolutely unnecessary. I told her that her behavior is suspicious, and I will do as I see fit. I got the test and turned out I was right and she is not mine. I confronted my wife again, and she got angry and called me a moron. I told her that nothing she says will change my mind, and I'm going to divorce her. Now everyone is blowing up my phone and calling me an asshole to get the test. Aita, edit. I thought this might be relevant. Our daughter is 16 years old. Do women find men attractive? I had a professor in college who was a neuroscientist. He was running a study where he was trying to see if there was a particular part of the brain that tracked monetary rewards separate from other kinds of rewards. So his experimental design was get heterosexual male participants and heterosexual female participants. Show them pictures of attractive members of the opposite sex. Then show them pictures of money. Measure the brain to see if there's a different reaction to the different kinds of images. Before you run a study, first you've got to do some validation. Checks to understand if the stimuli you're testing is actually good stimuli, e.g., do men find pictures of women to be a reward in the first place? During this smaller sample, what he actually found is that men's brains did react to pictures of attractive women as they would any kind of reward, in that the rewarding parts of the brain, which are innervated by dopamine neurons, lit up. However, female brains did not find pictures of attractive men rewarding in the same sense that the reward circuitry did not react. So long story short, he had to do the study with only male participants because women did not find attractive men rewarding to look at. And to be clear, it's not that these women did not find the men attractive, but that their brains did not perceive the attractiveness as a reward, like the men's brains found female images to be. A reward in neuroscience is something that the brain assigns value to, often through learned associations, evolution, etc. A women's reward circuit is not activating. When seeing an attractive male, there is little value in this. Who scores the oldest? I found this local stand that was bringing eggs fresh from the farm. Huge queue, but I decide to wait as this is a rare occurrence in our big city. After waiting patiently for my turn and the moment, I open my mouth to say how many I want. A tap on the shoulder. An older woman asks if she can cut and have the eggs as she has an emergency. I said she could do that once I have paid for my purchase, and if the person's queuing after me would agree. She stares at me and says, "But I have an 85-year-old at home to go and look after." I stare back and say, oh, the coincidence. I have a 95-year-old at home waiting for me to look after. Actually, my MIL is 93 and I am on the way to see her. The woman is shocked that she received the same argument in reverse and stood, their mouth open like a fish on the shore. Aita for walking out of my own birthday dinner. Because my girlfriend turned it into her celebration, so my 25-minute birthday was last weekend. I don't usually do anything big, but this year, a bunch of my friends were in town, and my girlfriend, 23F, offered to plan something. I was genuinely excited. She made a dinner reservation at a nice place. I've been wanting to try and said she had a little surprise planned. The surprise was that she invited a bunch of her friends, like 6 of them. People I barely know. One of them I actively dislike because she used to hit on me when my girlfriend and I first started dating. My girlfriend brushed it off, saying it would make things more fun and lively. Whatever. I tried to roll with it. But then at the dinner, it just got worse. She spent the entire time talking to her friends. I was seated at the far end of the table next to 2 people I'd never met. She didn't even sit next to me. When the food came, they all toasted her for organizing everything and started talking about her upcoming promotion. Her best friend gave a speech about how she deserves all the happiness in the world. Not one mention of me or my birthday. No cake, no toast, no happy birthday, nothing. I literally just sat there while everyone gushed over her for 2 hours. Eventually, I got up, paid for my portion of the meal, said I wasn't feeling well and left. I didn't make a scene or yell. I just quietly left. Later, she texted me saying I embarrassed her in front of her friends and ruined the night. She said she tried really hard to make it special, and I was being ungrateful. A few of her friends have messaged me, saying I was being immature and that it wasn't that deep. But I don't know, man. Is it crazy to think my birthday should have been at least a little about me? Aita? Update. We talked. She doubled down and said the dinner wasn't just about me. It was a chance to celebrate us and her hard work planning it. She admitted she didn't invite my friends because they wouldn't vibe with her circle. Still no happy birthday, no apology, just told me I was being dramatic and should be thankful she even organized something. I guess the dinner really was all about her. So yeah, I ended things. Aita for refusing to make amends with my dying sister. My sister, 53, and I, 45, have not spoken since I was 30. We used to be super close. She was like a mother to me growing up as our mother fell pregnant when I was 1.5 and spent the entire pregnancy plus 6 months post-birth in hospital. At 11 years old, I was living with her and her BF, now husband, for school reasons. Her BF SA'd me, I told her, and he beat her when she confronted him. She then told me it was my fault because I was acting like a tart and led him on. I believed her and felt responsible for the beating she got. I spent the next 12 years trying to protect her from him, cleaning her blood off walls and helping to raise their kids. I constantly begged her to leave him, to no avail. At 24, he tried it on me again. I told our mother. Her first question was, "Did you miss him? Think you wanted that?" She made excuses for him and told me not to tell my sister. A week later, my sister calls me, yelling and demanding to know what I did with her husband. I told her exactly what happened, and she called me a liar. I kept giving her the benefit of the doubt and blaming myself for the next 6 years. I finally had enough of her bullshit and cut her out of my life at 30. She got cancer when I was 21. I moved to the city to care for her and her kids. Apparently it's back now, and my mom thinks I need to forgive her and make amends before she dies. FTR, she's still married to the SO. My response was that she died 15 years ago in my eyes. So, do I so against not making amends and letting her go to her grave with my forgiveness?
I started a bad habit at 15, and now I'm 23 and can't seem to stop. I started a bad habit at 15, and now I'm 23 and can't seem to stop. For some context, at 15, I was an 8th grader about to be a 9th, middle school to high school. I had a group of girlfriends that I did everything with. We were all inseparable. One friend in particular had a mom who liked to be the cool mom. My first sleepover at her house, I showed up last. About 8 p.m. When I walked in, the girls were gathered in the kitchen around a large Smirnoff bottle, shot glasses around, half filled. My friend turned towards me and handed me a full shot glass. This being the first time I drank, I asked her, "What will your mom think?" She can literally see us. Her mom was located right outside the kitchen in the backyard. She was smoking a cigarette and on the cell phone. In the kitchen, there was a large window that faced right outside in the backyard, to where her mom was at. She was staring at the girls taking shots through the window, huffing a smoke of her cigarette every second. My friend proceeded to tell me, "Don't worry, my mom won't care. She bought us this bottle." Her mom then proceeded to come inside, about 15 minutes later, to take shots with us and go to bed. As she went to bed, one of my other friends called up on a guy she was talking to. They asked to hang out, and so we did. We invited them inside, we drank for a while, and then headed outside. One of the guys there brought a dab rig and a bong. Another brought a handful of vapes and started handing them out. I took a vape, and that's when it started. I became addicted to something I did not have any intention of doing. I guess you could say I did it to try to fit in. And that same night, I also tried marijuana for the first time. I am 23 years old now. I smoke weed every day, I vape every day. I'm afraid it will lead to a drinking problem since that seems to run in the family. I don't know how to stop. I'm entering public safety as my career, which means I am going to have to stop at some point. I just don't know how and when. I struggle every day trying to quit, and it's so hard. I fear it will only get worse, as I struggle with stomach issues, like gastrointestinal, because I smoke so much. I regret my decision and actions I made when I was 15 years old. I will always remember that night to be quite literally the end of me.
What's the most random thing that ever happened to you that made you question reality? I stalked, or was stalked by, a woman for about 10 years, but neither of us knew. She was from Connecticut and one from Tennessee, but we lived less than a mile apart in Knoxville, Tennessee in 1999. And we often frequented some of the same clubs and art shows. I was casual friends with her best friend. She graduated and moved to D.C. I moved to D.C. a few years later. In D.C., I was friends with her one coworker who was my sister's neighbor. Another coworker was my friend from college in North Carolina's brother. And so LD also met him a few times. We both, in different years, moved just outside D.C. to a small city called Tacoma Park. I had actually moved there as randomly as you could get due to the fact they had a music store. I bought repair parts at one time and loved the restaurant next door. The week before we first met, she was supposed to be at a dinner I was at with a different mutual friend from Tennessee but got tied up at work. When we met online, she proposed we go to her favorite Indian restaurant. Incidentally, also my favorite Indian restaurant. We realized on the third date that we lived on the same block. There are actually a few more close calls, but you get the picture. That is the backstory, but the questioning reality part is this. Had the most acute sense after talking to her an hour on our first date of how much I had missed her. I didn't feel like love at first sight. I felt like we'd been together for years but had to be apart for months. Married since 2011, kid, dog, and all that.
Went to the emergency for what I thought was a stomach bug, ended up having surgery. Wednesday night, I was taken by ambulance to the emergency room for what I thought was a horrendous stomach bug food poisoning, vomiting, pain, fever. A few hours later, the doctor walks in and says, "Good news. It's not a stomach bug or food poisoning. Bad news, you have a massive cyst on your left ovary and it's in torsion. You need surgery ASAP. So last night I had surgery to remove a cyst the size of a baseball and my left ovary. Fun fact, I've had my gallbladder removed 15 years ago. My fallopian tubes removed 3 years ago. And now I only have one ovary. Also, I had skin necrosis complications from another surgery. Skin on my abdomen went black and felt like leather. Months and months of recovery for that one. Cheers.
What's the most stupidest thing you have ever done which you still regret? I held a girl against her will when I was a teenager. This was when I was 17. She was 16. And she was friends with my sister. I was up late drinking in my room. Parents were hardly present. I was just in my bed watching a show. This was late at night. She came into my room and sat next to me on my bed. Her elbow was touching me and it felt amazing. I grabbed her into a hug. I could feel her trying to get out of the hug, but I did not let go. Then she said she wanted to go back to bed. I still did not let go right away, but after a minute I did. So she got up and was standing in my doorway. I asked her what she was doing and she called me a creep. In the morning, I woke up horribly embarrassed. I was also paranoid that she would tell people about me. To this day, these thoughts keep me up at night. I have sudden intense anxiety when it comes to my mind. I keep wondering about a lot of things. I never trust myself, and I have thoughts that I'm ashamed of. ATA for reversing the student loan payment I made for my ex-girlfriend. So a couple weeks ago, I posted about how broke up with my GF, 26F, after she demanded I pay off her sister's $42K in loans after already paying off her $35K loans. Y'all overwhelmingly said NTA and suggested I reverse the payment. Well, I did exactly that. Called the loan servicer, explained the situation, and was able to get the $35K payment reversed. My ex absolutely lost it when she found out, blowing up my phone with 50-plus texts calling me every name in the book. She's telling everyone I stole from her, and her family is threatening legal action. LOL, good luck. Her sister even showed up at my apartment screaming about how I ruined their plan, whatever that means. My friends are split. Half think it was savage but justified. Others think I should have just walked away without taking the money back. But honestly, the fact they immediately started planning how to spend my money on the sister confirms I made the right call. So, AATA for taking back money that was clearly part of a manipulation scheme? I think my boyfriend is gay. Me and my boyfriend and I have been together 2 years now. We've known each other for maybe 5 years. He's really become my best friend. And no matter the situation, I have a deep love for him always. During our first year together, we went on vacation and got drunk together. I guess maybe we were drunk enough he thought I wouldn't notice. He told me he was bisexual. I've brought this up to him before, in a way where I let him know I will always love him and be there for him. But he always denies it ever happened. I swear it happened! I watch RuPaul's Drag Race, and he is completely interested and invested in the show. He wouldn't ever admit that. But he'll ask me questions about gay culture. Maybe he's just curious, but with everything else, it raises my eyebrows. We do have sex and everything, and the sex is amazing. I really do truly feel loved by him, and I truly feel he's attracted to me. But that being said, if he were curious about his sexuality, I'd want to encourage him to do what it is he wants to do. But at the same time, I've now spent 2 years being his girlfriend, and I would not be happy if he was off with someone else. I realize that if he did want to be with someone else or do other things, I simply must let him go. But it does frustrate me if that's the case. I don't want to force him to come out, and maybe I am imagining things. But I've got this sneaky feeling that he is afraid to be who he really wants to be. Why BTA for not inviting my parents to my daughter's 13th birthday dinner? My parents are big on complaining. They complain everywhere they go over the silliest things. Tomorrow, my daughter Avery is turning 13. Every year, we've gone to a different restaurant on her birthday with my parents, and every year they've complained. This year, she wanted to go to this really cool restaurant that has some kind of music and light show they do for birthdays. I just know that my parents will throw a fit, because this definitely isn't the type of place you go for good food. It's a cool and fun experience, but that experience will be ruined for my daughter, because my parents are going to make a scene. Yesterday, my parents called and asked where my daughter's birthday dinner will be held, and I said that this year we're going to just do a small family dinner. They got pissed and said I'm depriving them of seeing their only grandchild. It's not like this is the only time of year they see her, though. They pick her up from school almost every day, and she hangs out with them for 1 to 2 hours. I know that it'd be a bad idea to let them come, but I really feel like I'm going to give in, and I'm honestly considering if I'm being dramatic. Wibta, if I walked away from a 12-year relationship, 40 female, have been with my partner, 51 male, for 12 coming on 13 years. We have 2 children together, and he has an older child from a past relationship. Last year, my partner's oldest child got into some trouble, and that has led to her 3 children being removed from her care and placed with us. Originally, this was meant to be a temporary situation, and we were all working with her to get her the help. She needed to get her children back. After many months of her letting her children down and not taking the appropriate steps needed to get them back, the social workers want us to take them on permanently. I'm not sure how I feel about having 5 children to care for, as I would be the main carer while my partner works and I do the home. I also do not like his daughter at all, anymore due to her actions in the past year and the choices she is making. There has been times in this past year that she has made up lies about me, blamed me for things, accused us of keeping her children from her, and has said that we have not supported her enough. My partner isn't great at sticking up for me when it comes to her. He has no issue with telling her off, so to speak, but it's never been directly addressed regarding me. I'm also pretty non-confrontational myself, they both know this, so I find it hard to stick up for myself when needed. Now, I'm not perfect. There has been times where I have forgotten to let her know about things. Like a child starting kindy. Was told when it was happening, I just forgot to remind her. Or a child going to the doctor. Nothing was wrong. But I have gone from have 2 children to 5 and find it hard to remember to eat, let alone tell her everything that is happening. Here's where I'm wondering if I would be the asshole. With the authorities wanting to place the children with us full-time, I'm contemplating leaving with my 2 children. It's a very stressful situation, and I've had social workers tell me how much these kids need me, ECT, and I know this, and I know that they would find it difficult to live with just their grandfather without me here. But our relationship hasn't been great for the past 3 years, and now with the extra children and stress, it feels like we just coexist in each other's lives. I also don't want anything to do with his oldest child, as I don't like her. I'm extremely conflicted as to what to do. Do I stay to make the kids happy, forgetting about myself as mothers do? Or do I walk away and move on? I feel like I would be judged if I just walked away, as the kids need me. But I also feel like I'll be taken advantage of if I stay. What's the creepiest thing you have ever done? In 9th grade, I sent a girl a love letter via email. But it wasn't just any love letter. I had stalked her more than most people think is possible. I went as far as to find an underground community on the deep web to learn how to break into her private MySpace account. I knew every single detail about this girl's life and kept a photo album of every image of her that had ever appeared online, public or private. It was sort of odd. Had a small crush on her. But most of this was motivated by the desire to know every detail about her life. Anyway, back to the love letter email. She was from Eastern Europe and had a very unique name. The only place her name showed up anywhere was in some obscure opera that obviously listened to every day on the way home from school and read the English translation to once a month. So, crafted a letter about comparing myself to the protagonist of this obscure opera, who kills himself out of love for her. Also included enough details in this email to let her know how much I had stalked her. I concluded the email by saying that I didn't want to date her and added, "Have a good day." We hadn't spoken before I sent that email, and we haven't spoken since. She never responded.
Weirdest night of my life. I went to the Sweat Tour in Boston last night. It was my first ever time going to a concert by myself. I'm from Rhode Island, so it was about an hour-and-a-half drive. I get there and everything is fine at the beginning. I find my seat, get a drink, and I'm ready to enjoy the show. About 3 songs into Charlie's set, someone from behind me, I'm on the balcony, falls and tramples multiple people over, including myself. I fall down about 2 rows. I was crushed by other people. My ankle was stuck in between 2 seats. People were very nice and tried helping me out and pulling me out. The medic came in and rolled the guy who fell on all of us out. They asked me if I needed a medic, but at the time, I had so much adrenaline pumping and I didn't want to miss the show, so I said no. I realized my phone was missing after a few moments. It fell all the way down the balcony, completely out of sight. Someone was able to retrieve it for me, but the screen was completely broken and wouldn't turn on at all. I started crying. I was by myself in a big city that I'm relatively unfamiliar with. I had no way of getting back to my car without GPS. I had no way of getting home. I started having a full-blown panic attack and asked the girl next to me for help. P.S. Shout out the girl next to me in balcony. 3 and 29, you were so sweet and kind and helpful. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. She came out with me to find security and tell them what happened. She also let me use her phone to text my boyfriend so he can come and help me get home. The security people eventually gave me a ticket to the handicapped section and a chair so I could enjoy what was left of the show there. But I just sobbed for most of it. My ankle was swollen and hurting. I didn't know how I was going to find my boyfriend and eventually get back home. My phone was completely broken and I needed to get a few And I spent over $200 on a night that would eventually turn out to be one of the worst of my life. I can't even comment on the show itself, because I was so distraught with everything I had going on, but it seemed good. I wish it was possible to get some sort of refund, but I bought a third party through resellers last minute. And I know it was nobody's fault except for the idiot that fell on me. I'm just bummed that this was my first alone concert experience, and I will never, ever, ever do it again.
Faith meets karma. In order for this to make sense, I have to explain that my parents both had a very deep Christian faith, and both believed that they were headed to a peaceful rest with their deceased family members after they passed. So neither feared death. Many years ago, my father had a very specialized surgery. It is so specialized that only one surgeon in one hospital in the entire country performed it at the time. That meant that most people who were having that particular surgery had traveled away from their home and away from any kind of religious support. The hospital offered a chaplain that would visit patients beforehand, if they marked that they were Christians on their intake paperwork. Dad, of course, marked Christian but declined a visit when the chaplain showed up at his door. So Dad had his surgery, and everything went as well as possible. But his recovery was a little rocky. There had been a few code blue calls during the night, but each time he was stabilized more easily. So by morning, they were fairly confident that everything was going to be okay. Mom had taken a break for some breakfast and was heading back when she realized that she was behind the chaplain and someone else. Normally, walking behind someone who was going slowly wouldn't bother her. But this time it did, because he was complaining about Dad saying his services weren't needed. Mom was feeling a bit irked about this. So when they heard the overhead page of code blue to my father's room, she tapped the chaplain on the shoulder, smiled brightly, and asked him to let her pass as that was her husband's room, and she would like to get there before he kicked the bucket. She said the chaplain turned about 10 shades of red before going sheet white. By the time Mom got back to his room, Dad was stable again. That was his last code blue, and the last time either of them saw the chaplain. Aita for treating my coworker differently after she accused me of SA when I saved her life. I'm a quiet guy and genuinely friendly. I treat all my coworkers as friends. About 2 months ago, during a work lunch, one of my coworkers started choking, so I did the Heimlich thing to help her. After she's in the clear, the others cheered. I asked if she all right. She just nodded and headed to the bathroom, without a word, so I didn't think much about that. Until 2 days later, I got called into HR for my inappropriate behavior. I was confused and asked for more details. That's when they told me that my coworker had filed a complaint stating that she felt my touch when I was helping her was inappropriate. My body was too close and she felt my private touching her. I gave my statement, and they put me on ice. I was still working with the potential to be removed while they investigate further. After a week, I was in the clear. I returned to working normally without fear, but I started distancing myself from the coworker. She tried to apologize, which I accepted, and tried to explain that she has to tell me that she has trauma, but I still take precautions and only treat her as just colleague. I'm no longer talk to her unless needed to, always keeping distance. No longer inviting her out unless there are others. She could feel my hesitant toward her and how he no longer treated her the same as others. She tried to say that I'm being ridiculous and petty, but I told her that I'm just looking after myself. So am I the a-hole? Edit. Wow, this blew up. I'm not very active here, but I have read several comments and DMs. Sorry, I can't read all. Thanks for everyone's support. I won't make updates, but I have some clarifications. I'm not from or at any English-speaking countries. Me and the coworker and I did have a talk with our colleagues nearby, and she agreed to just be limited to necessary contacts that related to works. I won't sue her because everything is resolved, and to be honest, it would just be bring more problems while wasting money. I also received several DMs about people with similar experiences as me, which made me sad and relieved that I'm not the only one. And I also saw comments about how I'm not considering and don't understand her trauma, which is fair. If you're harassed for real, then you should protect yourself. But I just hope she came to me about her uncomfortableness since we've known each other for a couple years. That's it. Again, thank you.
AIO. My mother asked someone else's child to be her one and only bridesmaid above me. Her only daughter. My mother and father are getting married, late in life in their 50s. They are having a small ceremony with close friends and family. One of the distant family members had a baby 3 years ago, and the family was away when she went into labor, so my mother stepped in and watched the baby be born. I understand they have a special bond because of this. However, my mother messaged me yesterday and asked if I would be upset if the child was her bridesmaid. Her only bridesmaid. I said yes. This would upset me, but it's her day and her choice. And it's whatever she wants. But she has gone absolutely crazy on me, saying I'm selfish and why would I be jealous of a child. So far, I have helped her with her dress, her wedding decor, paid for her cake, and gave $500 to help towards the wedding. She still chose someone else's child above me to stand up beside her. And the child's mother will have to stand there too now, as she's only young. While she's getting married and I'm expected to sit there and watch as her only daughter. Am I overreacting or do I have a right to be upset?
AIO. My girlfriend made out with her gay best friend. You guys are going to need more context. Me, 20 male, and my GF, 21 female, have been friends with, well, him A, 21 male, for over a year now. We've drank, done acid, shrooms, and E with him. The three of us drank and decided to do E together again, and after we told our first half, I and GF were almost falling asleep. My GF got up and they both woke me up to have some fun, so we played around the house then. I plopped back on my GF's bed and my GF joined, and her laid on top of us and got us all warm and cozy, which both of us didn't mind and whined when he offered to get off because it was so cold. The E's kicking in, and we already took our second half and cuddled more, said we loved each other. Kissed on the cheek and pecked on the mouth, where high as hail, but we didn't find any issue with it. We were all there and consenting. Then we got up to smoke a cig. I went to piss, and as I came out and saw them on the patio, kissing like making out, and it seemed like they backed away from each other. And I didn't say anything because I thought I saw it wrong and I didn't know what to say. And we went along with the night fine. My GF eventually got sick of him trying to cuddle with us, and we went to sleep together and A in his room. For more context, my GF just moved in with him because I'm still gonna work that's 40 mins away and school that's 30, and my family home is just closer. And I have no issue with him, and still don't he. He's been a trustworthy person and a great friend to both of us. I brought it up to my girlfriend, and she was shocked, grossed out, and extremely apologetic. I have no hard feelings towards both of them. I know my GF was blacked out and could have thought she was kissing me as we almost have to have the same facial hair, and she kept forgetting where she was. I 100% trust my girlfriend, but I feel like A could have pushed away and could have used common sense to know that's too far. I'm honestly just happy I was there, and we were around awful people who could take advantage of her state. Anyways, we won't be doing E again. Still love girlfriend, but I'm curious about how other people would feel in my shoes.
Am I the jerk for ending it with my BF after his girl best friend took my wedding invitation? Okay, so I, 21 female, and my boyfriend, 22 male, let's call him Todd, have been together since we both graduated college. Him and his girl best friend, let's call her Anna, have known each other since they were little, around middle school. If I'm being honest, I hate Anna. She's rude and always tries to act like she knows my BF better than me. Whenever all three of us hang out, she always tries to make a point saying, I've known him so much longer than you. Or, don't you think me and Todd would look so cute together? And then she would cackle like the annoying brat she is. Anyways, like I said, Todd's sister is getting married. She sent out the invitations a few weeks ago, and by boyfriend, he got one with a +1, obviously meant for me since his family loves me. One night I came home from work and I heard my boyfriend on speakerphone with Anna in the bedroom. I walked in and said hi to her and my boyfriend. I was trying to be nice even though I really hate her. After I said hi, my boyfriend had an almost scared look on his face, as if he was hiding something. And then Anna says this, OMG, my name, I'm so glad to hear you. I'm sorry for taking your +1. Todd decided to give it to me. Since I didn't get one of my own, my boyfriend's face went tomato red. He quickly ended the phone call awkwardly after she said that. I told him to explain himself and he said, well, she didn't get an invitation, and she really wants to the ceremony. Also, she's known me longer. I was fuming and stormed out. I went to go stay at a friend's house that night to calm down. The next morning, I called Todd's sister and explained the situation to her. She said that the invention was indeed meant for me and not her. Me and his sister are very close, so she gave me my own invitation. She said that even if I did break up with Todd, I can still 100% come to her wedding. This still doesn't change the fact that by boyfriend have my invention to Anna, I told my friend goodbye and went back to my shared apartment. When I got home, Todd was waiting for me. I told him that he can't just keep putting Anna over me like that. This isn't the first time that something like this has happened. He said I was overreacting and that it wasn't a big deal, since I got my own invitation in the end anyway. I was mad and told him that we were done and that he needed to pack his stuff up and leave. Edit. My boyfriend's family hates Anna just as much as I do. Todd's sister never wanted her to be at the wedding.
My mom is cheating on my dad. 16M. I live with my parents. And I found out about 3 years ago that my mom is cheating on my dad with one of her colleagues. I firstly found out when I was only 13. I found out because this person would often write messages to my mom, like too often, and sometimes they would have the hearth emoji in them. At first, these made me feel uneasy and disgusted by her, but soon I removed it from my mind with the passing of time, IDK, hoping that this was just a misunderstanding. Today, while I was behind her, she opened her phone, and I saw the contact name, her colleague, and all the chat was filled with hearth emojis and him, calling her like love, etc. She instantly closed the app, hoping that I hadn't seen those messages. Seeing this today really gave me a hard time talking to her and looking at her in the face, and I've decided that I want to confront and talk to somebody about this, since I've never told anyone. This whole situation feels like a nightmare for me, and I still can't believe it. My parents' marriage doesn't look bad from my point of view, so what my mom is doing really unsettled me. Neither I know what to do because I don't want to ruin my parents' marriage by revealing the truth to my dad. Also, I don't feel okay telling my mom this, since I think that it would ruin our relationship forever. Since I know her colleague, I thought about anonymously telling him that I know the whole situation and kinda blackmailing him into leaving her alone. Otherwise, I would tell his wife, because he has a wife and a kid. This seems like the only good solution to make the cheating stop for now. I feel like making the cheat stop is only a temporary solution. After all, even if the cheating stopped, it had already happened and it's irreversible. If anyone has some advice to give me about this whole situations, it would really be helpful. Thank you all. Am I the jerk for getting an autistic kid? And his family kicked off the flight. I, 26 male, recently went on a vacation with my wife, 27 female. Some context for the story. We just went on a 1-week vacation and on our flight back it got canceled. This is a huge airport and all the flights were canceled and there was a 24-hour wait for any hotel within a 2-hour drive. So we spent the first night at the airport, then we got a hotel for the second night. When we came back for a rescheduled flight, it got delayed for a few hours. So we were both on edge. When we were waiting at our gate, I noticed a kid around 13 who was kicking and screaming. At one point, he threw his phone at someone sitting next to him hard. The person got up and left. After we board our flight, I noticed the kid is 2 rows in front of us. And before we even take off, the kid is screaming and punching. We were in the second to last row, and the people behind us offered to switch seats with the kid and his family. I am already thinking about how this flight will be very long. They switch and the kid is right behind me. Not even before we take off again. This kid throws a bunch of popcorn over his seat all over me and my seat. He is still screaming. And I call over a flight attendant. She helps me clean up and not even 2 minutes after, this kid grabs my hair and pulls it back hard. I am 6'4", so my head was over the chair. I immediately yanked the kid's hand off hard. At this point, the mom, who hasn't said anything yet, started yelling at me to not touch her kid. A flight attendant comes over from the noise, and the mom is screaming about how I assaulted her kid, and she wants me off the plane. I finally get to tell my side, and a few passengers back me up. I ask for the kid to be kicked off with his family. During this entire thing, my wife gives me a look of pure hatred. But I don't care and am persistent about the family being kicked off. The mom is cursing me out, and the kid is still kicking my seat and screaming. After some time, they kick the family off, and we take the flight in peace. My wife is still looking at me with hatred before saying, I am an asshole for having their family being kicked off and I should have sucked it up. After that, she hasn't talked to me since, and it has been 3 days. So, am I the jerk for kicking an autistic kid and his family off a flight after he physically assaulted me? Waibta, if I told my grandma she couldn't see my son anymore if she keeps calling him the wrong name. I, 21F, had a baby 7 months ago. My grandma, 76F, is extremely Catholic. Goes to Mass every week, says prayers for hours every night. Doesn't eat meat on Fridays, etc. I am Catholic myself, but don't follow the faith as much as she does. When I got pregnant, she said she wasn't surprised, basically insinuating I was a slut and said it was because I spent the night at my boyfriend's 23 Maurer's house. She told my mom I shouldn't have a baby shower because I'm not married. Which she said the same thing to my mom when she was pregnant with me at 21, so my mom never had one. During my pregnancy, she would constantly tell me I need to name my baby after a saint. All of my uncles, my aunt, and mom are all named after saints, including my cousins, myself, and my siblings. My boyfriend isn't very religious, and it didn't matter to me about naming our son after a saint. We decided on the name Casey, just to please my grandma. I looked to see if there were any saints named Casey, and there weren't any saints, but there was a blessed Solanus Casey. My mom told my grandma that I named my son after him, but she wasn't happy because that's blessed Solanus's last name and not his first name. After voicing her opinion about that, she found out I had tattoos and texted my mom saying how she was a horrible mother and I'm going to hell. She will never say these things to me, but always to my mom. I had messaged her telling her that she's not being very Christ-like, and we got into a huge argument. Things cooled down after a little while, and I started talking to her again. But she won't say Casey's name. Every time she refers to him, she said, "Your son, your child." Now she's telling my mom that she's going to call him Solanus or Solly for short. But she still won't say this to me. I keep wanting to tell her that she's not going to see him if this continues, but I don't know if I'm overreacting. The other thing stopping me is my grandpa and my aunt. My grandma is a full-time caregiver to my aunt who has Down syndrome and to my grandpa that had a stroke 10 years ago and can't talk. He also has Parkinson's and can barely walk and shakes. So if I did stop letting her see Casey, my grandpa and aunt wouldn't be able to either. I'm kind of at a loss on what to do here. This didn't recently start happening with her. This has been going on for a very long time. When my brother was born, he was premature and had to be rushed to NICU. My mom called my grandma, crying scared he was going to die, but all my grandma cared about was that his middle name changed to a name that wasn't a saint's name. Edit. I am very lucky to have my mom. I saw some asking why my mom tells me the things my grandma says. We are very close, my mom and I. I would rather her tell me these things so I know what's going on. I relapsed and fell face first on the floor, breaking 5 of my front teeth. This is me now. I have treatment-resistant depression and was put on ketamine treatments, which really helped for a while, but I lost my health insurance. I decided to stay off of it, but my depression got so bad that one day I decided to get some illegally. I recently moved back in with my parents, and I was intending not to do drugs in their house, but somehow I made a mistake of doing ketamine in their house. Apparently, while I was dissociated, I was making some noise, and my father came in, apparently, to calm me down or see if I was okay. He said I was standing there, not saying anything and not looking at him, and then I suddenly fell face first into the floor, smashing the teeth out of my head. The first thing I remember when I regained consciousness was him saying, "You stupid boy, look what you've done." He drove me to the emergency room in the middle of the night and told me that he was very upset that he was having to do this, and I feel very bad that I disrupted his sleep. The emergency room told me that I was very lucky not to have severed my spinal cord with the force of the fall. I had a concussion, but no serious traumatic brain injury. The dental work to fix my face will be about $25,000, and my father has made it clear to me that this incident was entirely my fault and he will not help me in any way, although he does have quite a lot of money. Today he called me a lot of really mean names like bitch, bastard, and asshole. There was a lot more he said to me, just about my character and what he thinks of me as a person, and it was all very hurtful, but I think I believe him. I must confess I have had great anger toward him in my heart. I've had some very dark thoughts. However, I have decided to give up the fight and endure. I don't need teeth, I don't need the love of my father, and I don't need drugs because I don't need to feel good or even okay. Depression is fine. Toothlessness is fine. This is all fine. Thanks for hearing my story.
Do I leave the father of my unborn child? I'm a 26F. I got engaged this past August and quickly got pregnant in September. He is 30 months. I am currently 31 weeks pregnant. As of right now, our wedding is still on. This entire pregnancy, I have felt so alone and unhappy that he has treated me differently the entire time. I don't think it has to do with our kid on the way, because he seems excited about it. For context, we have been together for 2 years and moved quickly. He is a great guy. Well, he lets me work part-time, wants me to stay at home when our child is born, takes care of all the bills in the house. He used to be so kind and caring, pays for my gas. This is how I grew up, so him doing this for me is what my father did with my mother. This is something I always wanted to. I want to raise my kids. It's not like I am not educated or don't have something to fall back on. I am a teacher. He runs a successful business. I feel like maybe he fell out of love. At 6 months pregnant, he slapped me across the face. I do feel like it is my fault. I was complaining a lot and wouldn't leave him alone. Recently, he has been showing more and more signs of violence, like throwing stuff across the house or telling me to leave him alone or he will hurt me. I feel so broken. I tried bringing up to him that I don't like his hygiene. He does not shower frequently and it really bothers me. I have to ask him in advance to shower so I can change the sheets. I am a clean freak and shower every day, and will not even go on my bed with outside clothes. How do you even deal with that? How could someone just not want to shower? He also has a snow problem. I told him he has to stop when our child is born, but it doesn't seem like he wants to stop or is trying. He keeps buying it and uses it a lot throughout the week, sometimes daily. I am so in love with him, and I'm trying so hard to make this work. because I know what an amazing guy he was. I want my child to grow up in a loving home with us. I guess I just don't know what else to do or who to go to. My parents really love him and will be devastated if it doesn't work out. No one knows about the snow problem or when he hit me. I am embarrassed, and I wouldn't want my family to get that image of him. I would appreciate any advice. I am so stuck, I feel trapped. I am unhappy and so hurt. I know I sound ridiculous. I am in love with the guy and feel like I put my all into this. How does one just let that go?
Am I overreacting by cutting off all contact with my mother after she baptized my daughter in the Catholic Church? I am 19 years old and have a newborn daughter. Since I found out about my pregnancy, my mother has been trying to impose her worldview and religious beliefs on me. She is a devout Catholic, while I follow an African-based religion and practice candomblé. Our relationship has always been troubled because of this. Since my teenage years, she has tried to save me, saying that I was straying and that my faith was the devil's work. I never had peace at home because of it. When I got pregnant, I thought things would improve, but they only got worse. She saw it as an opportunity to bring me back to God. From the start, she made it clear that she wanted my daughter to be baptized in the Catholic Church. I, on the other hand, was always firm. My daughter would have the freedom to choose, and I would not allow anyone to impose any religion on her. This decision was not up for debate, but my mother never accepted it. She pressured me, saying that my daughter would be condemned, that I was depriving my own child of salvation. I avoided these conversations to prevent arguments, but I made it clear multiple times that I would not give in. Last week, I had to go out to take care of some urgent matters and left my daughter with my mother for a few hours. I hesitated, but I thought she would respect my decision. When I returned, she had a satisfied smile and said, "Now your daughter is protected." My heart sank. I asked what she meant, and she, without a hint of regret, told me that she had secretly taken my daughter to church and had a priest baptize her. I was in shock. I took my daughter and left, crying with rage. I felt that my mother had betrayed my trust in an irreparable way. It was an absurd invasion of my authority. As a mother and a complete disregard for my decisions. I knew she didn't accept my faith, but I never imagined she would go so far as to override me like this. Since then, I have cut off contact with her. I don't answer her calls, I don't allow visits, and I've made it clear that she won't see my daughter anytime soon. My family is divided. Some think it was a mistake, but that I should forgive her, while others say my mother did the right thing and that I am overreacting. So, am I overreacting? Ada for flashing my meal after she told me not to breastfeed my baby in my own house. I recently had a baby and have been breastfeeding her regularly. My MIL came over on short notice while I was doing chores around the house. She picked some things from our garden and chatted with me and my husband. She sat down and started watching the news on the TV. I ended up watching TV a bit later too, and I was tired. My baby started getting fussy. I pulled down my top to start nursing her. My mill swung her head to me and gave me a look. She huffed and said, "Really? Around me? I'll just get naked too and have it all hanging out, huh?" And rolled her eyes at me. This isn't the first time she's done something like this. And the last time she made a comment while she was here for the day, I just took my baby into another room. Then my husband bought me a cover, but my baby doesn't like it when I use it. This time I just had enough. I didn't have it all hanging out, and I was doing it pretty discreetly, not facing her. I was tired and wasn't really thinking. I just pulled off my top and stood up right in front of her and told her, "I'll feed my baby when I want in my house." She just stared at me and I added, "If you don't like it, you can leave." I sat back down and she said, "I can't believe this girl," and got up and left. My husband was there and afterwards said I didn't have to go that far. He said Mail texted him angrily, but I was just tired in the moment. And all I was thinking about was just feeding my baby. Ada here, co-worker, 43M, keeps trying to interact with me, despite me, 22F, ignoring him. So I've been working at this grocery store as a cashier for almost a year. It's just a job that I have to make some money while I'm in college. My schedule is really limited, so the only time I work with him is Saturdays in the AM. The coworker in question works in the back room, so I didn't even know of his existence until a few months ago. I was covering a break in the liquor room when he came in to stock some stuff. He said hi to me and I said hi back. Whatever. But I really don't like talking to people that aren't in my department, so oftentimes I would just ignore him if he didn't initiate. After a while, it seemed like he got the hint, but after a month of bliss, he started to interact with me more. Sometimes if it's slow up front, they'll send people to help stock in other departments. I was sent to help with produce, and he kept walking by me. And I heard him tell the produce, "Manager, so you got a new worker?" as a joke. I also had a lot of cardboard on the floor next to me, and he came all the way from the other side of the store to pick it up for me in one of the giant cardboard bins. The week after, I was in the back room putting a salvaged item away, and he asked, "You helping produce again today?" And I just said no. Anyways, I've been helping a lot with the in-store shopping department since it tends to get really busy. I was in an aisle, and he was walking the aisle adjacent to mine, and was talking to someone. He saw me and waved really big even though I was far away from him. I then ran into him later, and he said, "You never are doing what you're supposed to be doing. You always just do what they tell you." I just awkwardly laughed and said only on Saturdays. Anyways, at this point I've been telling my coworkers because maybe he is just super friendly and all of them had said he never talks to them. This was proven last weekend because my coworker walked by him in the back room to put away a salvaged item and he didn't say anything to her. I was doing in-store shopping and he walks through my aisle and says, "Good morning." Before I even looked to see it was him, I just said hi. He also stares at me constantly, and the few times he comes up to the front, my friend says he is always looking at me up and down. Today I ran into him a few times, doing in-store shopping, and I completely ignored him and didn't even look at him. However, we crossed paths again, and he literally stopped right in front of me and waved. I wasn't even looking at him. I just don't understand why he's so persistent in talking to me. I almost want to ask him, but I freeze up every time he interacts with me. I'm not sure if it's all in my head or not. I just don't understand why he's trying to talk to me so much when I never acknowledge his existence. AITB for not going to pick up my girlfriend up from a night out. So my 23M girlfriend, 22F, of 10 months went on a work night out since she's leaving the company, and they wanted to send her off. I wished them well and thought I would get an early night since I and her had planned to meet up the next day at her place. It's probably important to mention that since we're both at college and have no savings at the moment, she lives with her parents and I live with my parents. Later in the night, she asked me if I would pick her up from the night out and make sure she got home safe. I don't drive and don't have a car, I told her since I was planning on going to bed early anyway, and since it would take me getting a bus and walking for half an hour to get to her and then back home again, that I probably wouldn't be able to meet her at the bar, but that I would pay for an Uber to get her home. She got really mad at me saying that if you cared, you'd come pick me up. She ended up getting herself an Uber back to her mom's place and then messaged me saying, "Clearly, I don't matter that much to you, otherwise you'd be here. And I just wanted to see my boyfriend and know you care about me getting home safe, but clearly you don't." I told her that do care about her safety and about her, which is why I offered the Uber, but I just wasn't able to pick her up. I also mentioned how we were meeting up the day after, so why did she need to see me that night? She finished off by saying, "Whatever. I don't know why it's such a big thing. Good night." I don't know. Obviously, I love her and want her to be safe. But after this, I'm questioning whether I should have gone to get her. AITB. AIT for leaving my friend's wedding early because I wasn't allowed a +1. My 32M friend Emma got married last weekend. I was excited to attend, but when the invites went out, I noticed I wasn't given a +1. I've been with my boyfriend, 30M, for almost 2 years, and he's met Emma multiple times. They've always gotten along fine, or so I thought. When I asked Emma about it, she said it was a budget thing and only married couples were getting +1s. I was a little hurt, but I didn't argue. I figured it was her wedding, her rules. But when I got to the wedding, I immediately noticed that several people, including some who weren't even in relationships, had brought dates. I tried not to let it bother me, but throughout the night, people kept asking where my boyfriend was since they assumed he'd be there. It was awkward. Later, I found out from a mutual friend that Emma had deliberately not invited my boyfriend because she couldn't stand how perfect he was, what if? Apparently, she made comments before about how he was 8 different doctors, taking 10 different medications several times a day and working a full-time job. I just kept getting worse. I needed to sleep 12-hour days just to function, but I did it and adjusted everything so that no one would be impacted by my declining health. About 3 weeks ago, I was in bad shape. He told me to go to the emergency room. I said that I would Uber so that it wouldn't impact his schedule. However, on the day, I was so afraid that I asked him to take me. Later, when it was time to go home, I felt overwhelmed by what happened, and I asked him to pick me up. I should have just Ubers like I said because he came to get me, and he was so upset we ended up getting into a huge fight. He said I was inconsiderate of his needs and that I should move out. I told him I was not going to move out and that if he was unhappy, he should leave. He proceeded to tell me that I was incapable of taking care of the house and the family in my condition, and I should do the right thing and leave. I wasn't going to leave the family I built and the life I'd worked so hard to create so time. Went by 2 weeks we talked, and he told me that he wanted to be single. He didn't want to be married to me anymore, and that the sorrow he was feeling was so deep that he didn't know how he was going to get better, but that he knew it was inevitable that our marriage would end. A couple of weeks before my birthday, I gathered the courage to offer him a 1-month, no-contact split, and he giddily accepted it only to come to tell me that I better not try to stop him from seeing his daughter. I broke down sobbing because this man whom I've loved for half my life is treating me like I'm this evil villain hell-bent on hurting him. In that moment, I yelled at him with tears in my eyes that I know the only person he never wants to see, again, is me, and I'll find a way to come to terms with it. But that for 30 days. He isn't welcome in my home. I blocked him from my phone and stopped sharing my location. I told our daughter, 15, that I will support whatever she wants to do, and I will be there for her no matter what. She chose to stay, but kept the lines of communication open with her dad. I think that's healthy, and I'm so proud of her, but folks are telling me I was wrong to let him leave. Aita here? Co-worker, 43M, keeps trying to interact with me, despite me, 22F, ignoring him. So I've been working at this grocery store as a cashier for almost a year. It's just a job that I have to make some money while I'm in college. My schedule is really limited, so the only time I work with him is Saturdays in the AM. The coworker in question works in the back room, so I didn't even know of his existence until a few months ago. I was covering a break in the liquor room when he came in to stock some stuff. He said hi to me and I said hi back. Whatever. But I really don't like talking to people that aren't in my department, so oftentimes I would just ignore him if he didn't initiate. After a while, it seemed like he got the hint, but after a month of bliss, he started to interact with me more. Sometimes if it's slow up front, they'll send people to help stock in other departments. I was sent to help with produce, and he kept walking by me, and I heard him tell the produce, "Manager, so you got a new worker?" as a joke. I also had a lot of cardboard on the floor next to me, and he came all the way from the other side of the store to pick it up for me in one of the giant cardboard bins. The week after, I was in the back room putting a salvaged item away, and he asked, "You helping produce again today?" And I just said no. Anyways, I've been helping a lot with the in-store shopping department since it tends to get really busy. I was in an aisle, and he was walking the aisle adjacent to mine, and was talking to someone. He saw me and waved really big even though I was far away from him. I then ran into him later, and he said, "You never are doing what you're supposed to be doing. You always just do what they tell you." I just awkwardly laughed and said only on Saturdays. Anyways, at this point I've been telling my coworkers because maybe he is just super friendly and all of them had said he never talks to them. This was proven last weekend because my coworker walked by him in the back room to put away a salvaged item and he didn't say anything to her. I was doing in-store shopping and he walks through my aisle and says, "Good morning." Before I even looked to see it was him, I just said hi. He also stares at me constantly, and the few times he comes up to the front, my friend says he is always looking at me up and down. Today I ran into him a few times, doing in-store shopping, and I completely ignored him and didn't even look at him. However, we crossed paths again, and he literally stopped right in front of me and waved. I wasn't even looking at him. I just don't understand why he's so persistent in talking to me. I almost want to ask him, but I freeze up every time he interacts with me. I'm not sure if it's all in my head or not. I just don't understand why he's trying to talk to me so much when I never acknowledge his existence. Eite. I'm a double affair baby who was rejected by both sets of siblings. So I say I'm an only child? I'm, 25 meters, a double affair baby, meaning my mom and dad were both married to other people, cheated on their spouses, and conceived me. They ended up marrying each other after their divorces were finalized. And they raised me together. Their kids from their first marriages did not accept me and do not claim me as a sibling. I always felt their hostility when I was a kid. They were all moved out by the time I was 9, and I saw them a handful of times after, the last being 7 years ago, and those handful of times they were very clear about not wanting to talk to me and how I was not their brother or their family. I mean, one even told me the world would be a better place if I'd never been born or if I had died. Because of all this, I claim I'm an only child when people ask. I never say I have siblings, half or otherwise. That's just my preference, and I find it easier. Plus, I only have siblings through genetics, not through a bond or anything else. I'm pretty sure they would all leave me for dead on the side of the road, if the chance ever occurred. This became a topic because I'm engaged to the cousin of a former childhood friend. He and I were friends most of our lives until we hit junior year, and he turned into a real dick and our friendship ended. My fiancé and I met years later, and she knows my background. And she said she would also consider me an only child also, so she has zero issues. She also has issues with her cousin. I didn't even realize they were related until a while later. But in the last couple of months, he's appeared at a couple of family parties, and he brought up the fact I claimed the only child label. He never had an issue with it before, but he said I was being childish and a liar by claiming that I am. Then I have a few relatives, not my parents. I'm no contact with them, who get upset when they realize I don't claim my siblings. We have discussed how if they don't claim me or count me. When talking about siblings they have, then I won't count them. The family members tell me that could change, and I could avoid awkwardness by letting people know. So if I have a relationship with any of them in the future, I won't end up with egg on my face. Ada? I asked a girl out, and it didn't go well in the slightest. I'm 16M, and I asked a girl out, 17F. And it didn't go well, at least in my opinion. I slipped a note in her locker because I couldn't say it to her in person. I froze up, even when I had attempted to ask her. I almost fainted, thank God I didn't. She saw it. I heard from my friend who had another class with her. I have none with her. And she was showing the note to people. I put in the note 3 times I wanted her to not show it to anyone. And she shows it to anyone humanly possible who will listen. I was told she showed everyone by one of her best friends, as well as that she was going to reject me. I thought that her friend was lying because of how much she lies already. YK, the kind of bigger protective friend. She wasn't. The girl texted me saying that she doesn't like me like that, and that she wanted to stay friends. I asked her how many people she showed the note to, and she said 3 people. I proceeded to name about 5 people she showed, and she just went kind of silent. I later then, when we saw each other in person, I told her more people that she showed the note to, and she just looked at me like a deer with headlights. Her showing the note to people was a big thing to me. It was being private, in a more intimate moment, and she showed it to everyone. So I texted her, and I told her that if she wants to stay friends, she can. But I'm not going to put any effort in. She burned every bridge when she showed the note to people and then lied, through her teeth to me too. Was a big loss for me, but I'm glad I managed to dodge a bullet in the end. Edit. Removed to was. I realize how stupid it looked, and fixed deer in headlights. Edit 2. Wow, this post really blew up. I wrote this out for me to write it out. And I really appreciate everyone's words and advice that I will most definitely follow in the future. Thanks, everyone. AITA for refusing to let my Mal be alone with my baby after she tried to secretly do a DNA test. I, 29F, gave birth to my first child, a beautiful baby boy 3 months ago. My husband, 32M, and I were beyond excited. But from the moment I announced my pregnancy, my MIL made things difficult. She always had this weird obsession with my husband's ex, constantly talking about how perfect they were together and how she was the one that got away. When I got pregnant, she made passive-aggressive comments like, "Are you sure it's his?" I brushed it off as her being annoying, until I found out she wasn't just talking. A few weeks after my son was born, my SIL pulled me aside and told me something shocking. Mill had been trying to get a DNA sample from my baby. She asked SEL if she could borrow a piece of his hair or his pacifier to send for testing. SIL thankfully shut it down, but Mill didn't stop there. She later tried to take my baby's used bottle from our house when she came to visit. When I found out, I was livid. I told my husband that from now on, MIL is never allowed to be alone with our child. If she thinks she has the right to sneak around and question his paternity, she doesn't get the privilege of unsupervised visits. My husband agreed that what she did was wrong, but he thinks my punishment is too harsh. He says she was just being paranoid, and that now that she sees our son, looks like him, she won't try anything again. Meanwhile, MIL is furious, crying to the whole family that I'm keeping her grandson away from her and making her feel like a criminal. Some relatives think I'm being dramatic and that I should just let it go because she's just an excited grandma. I don't care how excited she is. This was a huge violation of trust. But now I'm wondering, am I overreacting, Aita? My 4th grade teacher called me the devil, so I proved her right. This was about 9 years ago. And a separate post on another, sub about prank. Phone calls brought this roaring back into my memory. I had a bully in 4th grade who was absolutely adored by our math teacher. She always made me help him even though she knew we didn't get along. Anytime we got into it, him bullying me and me standing up for myself and other kids he bullied. She would treat me like garbage after. She was hyper-religious. Disclaimer, I'm not anti-religion, I'm Jewish myself, but she would refer to me as the devil whenever I upset her and or her favorite student. One day the student and I really got into it in gym class and I fought back. Like, fought. By that, I mean I tried to bludgeon him, with my arm cast after he had shoved me to the floor repeatedly. I was stopped by the gym teacher, but of course, the math teacher made me pay for it later by, once again, calling me the devil and treating me like crap. So I proved her right. I spent a couple of weeks compiling a list of all of the online psychic, tarot reading, and medium services I could find, everything I knew she would be against. Then, after the dust from the gym incident had settled, I signed her up for each and every one using her school-issued email. The best part about it is I never got caught. But I do remember hearing about some extra email protocols being put in place for the teachers. Afterwards, I smiled as sweetly as I could at her every time we interacted. I laid the cheese on thick and started purposefully misleading my bully whenever I helped him with math, all while watching her nerves and his grades spiral. Ayate for telling my sister her kids aren't mine. My sister is very annoying sometimes, which is why I don't talk to her on a daily basis. She always finds a way to cause a problem. My daughter's birthday was coming up, and I've been planning on what to get her. A car, because she's been asking for one since she was 13. I wanted it to be a surprise. My nephew's birthday was on the same date as my daughter, so they're both 17. He never tells anyone what he wants, so he just gets random stuff. The only time I heard he wanted a car was last year. My sister and his dad didn't get it. For him, because they were struggling financially, so even they didn't have a car. I thought getting him a PS5 and a gaming set would be cool because my sister couldn't afford to get it for him last birthday. I ordered my nephew things earlier just in case it wouldn't come in time. Since we don't live close, I had the gifts sent to my sister's house with gift wrapping. When it was time for their birthdays, I made sure to wish them both happy birthday. I was hoping my nephew was grateful for the gift. My daughter was surprised about her gift, and I was happy that she liked it. She couldn't help but tell everyone. But my nephew didn't tell me thank you. I texted and asked if he liked my gift, but he ignored my messages, so I guess it was a no. That's when my sister called me, thought she was calling for something, but no. She called complaining about my gift, she said. How did my daughter get a car and not her son? I was kind of confused about why she was making this a problem. She's my child, and that's what she wanted. My sister doesn't even get my kids gifts, so I should be mad, actually. But I don't go ranting about them not getting a gift. I told her because I did, so she shouldn't have a problem with it. I don't know what made her so mad. She went on about how my nephew was upset he didn't get a car, and I could have made it even. That's when I told her that her kids aren't my kids. I can't believe this is real because why would anyone be mad at this? Since my gifts aren't being appreciated, so I'm stopping, and no one is getting gifts from me. To her and my mom, I'm TA. Karen tries to reserve twice the seats at Barnes & Noble. Not on my watch, Karen. My local Barnes & Noble in Texas is not that large. The cafe has seating for about 30, tops, most of those at 6-7 tables away from the window. We also only have one counter, across from the barista station, with seats for 4. The counter is immediately to the left, as soon as you enter the cafe area. These are close to the window and are coveted. Seats if you can't get a table, alongside the window. Being a B&N nerd, I always know when to show up and get a good table close to the windows. I managed to snag one of those tables, as always, with the window to my right, the counter seating directly in front of me, and the register to serving area to my right. I was happy to get a window-side table, as I often cannot, and not have to sit at the counter with its 4 stools. As I was enjoying my coffee and magazines, I noticed that the 4 stools at the counter were only half occupied. There was a tallish 50-something blonde and her 17-ish daughter 2 stools away. Trouble is, they had plopped their clothing backpacks on the other stools, as to take up 4 stools instead of the 2 they needed. The daughter was perusing the store and wasn't even using her seat, but Mom had them taken with backpacks and a purse to save them. I actually saw a couple come in and were denied a seat at the counter, due to Mom telling those seats were occupied. When the daughter eventually returned, Mom seemed to celebrate her victory with her. After the second time I saw this happen, I put away my magazines and decided to have some fun. When a third, fatter, rednecky couple came in and were driven away from Karen, I smiled and waved them over. I offered them my seat. I was taking up one seat at a 4-man table, and after they sat, I explained to them what was going on. They were a little put out by being denied a decent seat at the counter and took my advice. They walked the 10 feet back to the counter and pulled out the stools, only to be told my mom that those seats were taken. They plopped their asses in the seats anyway, and, I'm assuming, told Mom they'd be happy to move when the owner returned. Mom indignantly took the backpack's purse from the left, 2 seats, and pouted for a while, looking around. The daughter came back and a smallish argument ensued. the rednecky couple offering to move when others came by to reclaim their other seats. Mom was very put out and was angry that her scam was not working. She wound up putting both backpacks and daughter's purse on her 2 seats. And the redneck couple ignored her and enjoyed their coffees. Naturally, she left soon after. Redneck couple turned around and gave me a smile and a thumbs up. I responded with devil horns.
I'll smoke you with a smirk. So I'm at this neighborhood BBQ last summer. Sun's blazing. Tunes bumping. Everyone's got a drink and a vibe. It's a potluck deal. And I'm hyped to show off my smoked ribs recipe. Slow cooked. Fall off the bone. The kind of stuff that makes you a backyard legend. Then there's this guy. Let's call him Karen. Yeah. He earns it. Who's self-appointed. Grill master and decides he's the king of the coals. No one touches the grill but me. He barks, waving tongs like a scepter. 1 dish at a time. Mine first, then we'll see. I'm like, dude, it's a big grill. Can't I just slide my ribs on the side? They take hours. Nope, 1 at a time. My burgers are a priority. He's got this smug grin, flipping his patties like he invented fire. Fine, your throne, your rules. Let's play. First round, I let him strut. He's hogging the grill, burgers sizzling, while my ribs sit in their marinade, mocking me from the cooler. Everyone's chowing down, but I'm patient. Petty's brewing. He finishes, wipes his hands, and goes, all right, your turn. I nod, all innocent, and haul out my setup. Ribs, a little foil tray of applewood chips, and a plan. Grill's still hot. So I slap the ribs on, low and slow, and tuck the wood chips in the corner. Smoke starts curling up, thick, sweet, irresistible. Karen's over by the picnic table mid-bite when the aroma hits. People drift over. Whoa, what's that smell? I'm basting the ribs, casual as hell. Just my recipe. Takes a while, hope you don't mind. Karen's burgers? Forgotten. Crowd circling me now, drooling. Asking for seconds, I haven't even served yet. He stomps over. You're smoking out my spot. 1 dish at a time, right? I'm just following your rule. I flash a grin, flip a rib. Smoke's billowing now, a fragrant fog of rebellion. He tries to muscle in. Let me cook something else. Nah, my turn's not done. You said 1 at a time. I drag it out, checking the ribs, adjusting the chips. Chatting up the neighbors about patience in cooking. An hour in, his reign's toast. Everyone's raving about the ribs, piling their plates, while his sad burger platter sits there, cold and lonely. By sundown, Karen's sulking by the cooler, tongs abandoned. While I'm handing out rib tips like a smoky Santa, host claps me on the back. Best BBQ ever. Keep that grill next time. You got it. Karen thought he'd gatekeep the grill and flex his burger supremacy, but I smoked him out with patience and a killer recipe. Patty, damn straight. Tasty, like victory with a side of BBQ sauce.